We all face moments where the horizon vanishes, replaced by impenetrable fog. It is a peculiar desolation, not grand tragedy, but pervasive stillness, a quiet erosion of hope. This is the weight of stagnation, an unseen burden pressing down, not by collapse's force, but by the insidious, relentless pressure of an unmoving world. Imagine the profound weariness within when efforts yield no fruit, when the path ahead, once clear, becomes obscured by an invisible wall. This is the silent agony of potential unfulfilled, of dreams left dormant, gathering dust in the soul's forgotten corners. It is life's current slowing to a trickle, vibrant colors of possibility fading to muted grays. Perhaps you recognize this landscape. It could be the persistent feeling of being stuck in a career with no growth, a relationship that has lost its spark, or a personal journey stalled indefinitely. It manifests as a nagging sense of being held captive, not by visible chains, but by unseen bonds that bind the spirit. There's a deep, unarticulated yearning for something more, something vibrant and alive. You might find yourself gazing out, not at a literal desert, but a metaphorical one, where inspiration's wellsprings have dried up, leaving behind cracked earth and echoes of what might have been. Your own reflection, or faces around you, might carry that subtle etching of quiet despair, a resignation to the status quo, even as the heart cries out for liberation. This pervasive standstill is more than a temporary setback. It can become a defining characteristic, a constant whisper telling you this is all there is. The invisible barriers are not always external. Often they are deeply internal, woven from past disappointments, ingrained fears, or the sheer exhaustion of battling an unseen current. There's a desperate desire to shatter these barriers, to break free from inertia's gravitational pull, to step from shadows of what could have been into the light of what can be. The soul yearns for movement, for purpose, for progression's simple joy, aching for fresh air, solid ground underfoot, moving forward rather than merely enduring. Yet amidst this yearning, a profound question arises. How? How does one break free when liberation's tools seem hidden? How does one ignite an inner fire when hope's embers feel long extinguished? This is not a journey for willpower alone, for stagnation's forces often feel too immense, too deeply entrenched. There is a need for something beyond human effort, a divine intervention, a guiding light to pierce the thickest fog and reveal a path previously unseen. It is a call for an intimate whisper, not distant thunder, but a profound, simple utterance resonating directly with the deepest parts of being, a key fitting the lock of the heart's deepest desires. This script is an invitation to engage with a spiritual current that can transform the desolate landscape of standstill into a vibrant, unfolding dawn. It speaks to that part of you longing to shatter invisible barriers, to move beyond the suffocation of unfulfilled potential. It acknowledges quiet despair and etched weariness, offering a glimpse into a possibility transcending human limitation. We stand at the precipice of a journey, not into the unknown, but into the deeply known truth of divine power, awaiting release. It is a moment to prepare the heart, open the spirit, recognize profound longing, and anticipate unlocking paths to serene pastures, clear waters, and boundless skies, where joy blossoms in confidence of newfound purpose. This is a journey toward living the blessed existence you once only dreamed of, a testament to grace. Our fervent longing for release, though deeply personal, is not an isolated cry in the void. Rather, it resonates with an ancient, immutable promise, a divine decree woven into the fabric of existence. The hope for breakthrough, therefore, is not a mere figment of imagination or a fleeting wish, but an expectation firmly anchored in the very nature of the divine. It is here we pivot from acknowledging the weight of human struggle to recognizing the boundless strength of the Heavenly Father, whose commitment to His children transcends all earthly limitations. This is not a fragile aspiration, but a rock-solid assurance, an unbreakable covenant established long before any challenge you face. Consider for a moment the profound declaration found in ancient texts, a timeless assurance echoed through generations. No weapon forged against you will prevail. This is not a casual statement. It is a divine edict, a binding promise from the Creator of all. Similarly, the question posed in the Scriptures, if God is for us, who can be against us, serves not as a query seeking an answer, but as a triumphant affirmation of divine allegiance. These are not just comforting words, they are foundational truths, revealing God as the ultimate defender, a steadfast bulwark against all forms of opposition. His intervention is not a possibility, but a certainty, ensuring that His people are not merely protected, but ultimately uplifted and victorious. This unwavering commitment extends to every form of opposition you might encounter. When confronted with what appear to be insurmountable odds, be they systemic barriers, deep-seated anxieties, or subtle spiritual adversaries, this scriptural truth stands as an impregnable shield. It implies that every strategy, every device, every form of resistance marshaled against your divine purpose is inherently disarmed in the face of God's active presence. It's not just about surviving an attack, it's about rendering the attack utterly ineffective. The enemy's schemes unravel, their power diminishes, and their influence wanes, not by your might alone, but by the omnipotent hand of the one who stands guard over your life's journey. The very act of internalizing this truth begins to shift the landscape of your spirit. Knowing that the Almighty is your champion empowers a different kind of resilience, a fortitude born not of stubbornness, but of divine conviction. This divine backing transforms the nature of your struggle. What once felt like an isolated battle against overwhelming forces now becomes a joint venture with the Commander of Hosts. You are not simply enduring, you are strategically positioned, fortified by an unseen but undeniable power. Consequently, fear begins to recede, replaced by a quiet confidence, an inner strength that allows you to face adversity with a renewed sense of purpose and an unshakable belief in a favorable outcome. Furthermore, understanding this bedrock principle empowers a different kind of engagement with life's trials. It is not a call to passivity, but an invitation to active faith, to stand firm on what has been divinely declared. When you grasp that God is inherently committed to your defense and elevation, it prompts you to speak truth into your circumstances, to declare His promises over every area where you feel assailed or held back. This active declaration aligns your will with His divine will, setting in motion forces that transcend the visible world. It encourages a posture of anticipation rather than resignation, knowing that breakthrough is not merely hoped for, but divinely guaranteed. Ultimately, this scriptural bedrock affirms an inviolable truth. You are not navigating life's complexities in isolation, nor are you left to fend for yourself against unseen foes. The Lord Himself takes up your cause, not as a distant observer, but as an ever-present, active participant in your life. His commitment means that your destiny is not subject to the machinations of darkness or the limitations of human frailty. The narrative of your life, therefore, is not dictated by the limits of your current circumstance, but by the boundless scope of divine will, ensuring that every challenge you face will ultimately bow before His supreme authority, ushering in the triumph He has ordained for you. Reflecting on this journey through the shadowed valleys where potential felt tethered and horizons obscured, we begin to perceive a profound reorientation of the spirit. The insidious stillness that once settled upon the soul, breeding a quiet despair, now yields to an understanding of dynamic movement, not by our own strained exertion, but by an encompassing grace. The very air, once thick with the unspoken anxieties of unfulfilled purpose, seems to clarify, revealing an underlying current of divine intention that has been present all along, awaiting recognition. This dawning awareness is not merely a comforting thought, but a fundamental shift in the existential ground beneath us, transforming the perceived vastness of our limitations into the limitless expanse of divine possibility. Drawing these strands together, we discern a profound shift in the very architecture of our spiritual landscape. The insidious stillness that once settled upon the soul, breeding a quiet despair, now yields to an understanding of dynamic movement, not by our own strained exertion, but by an encompassing grace. The very air, once thick with the unspoken anxieties of unfulfilled purpose, seems to clarify, revealing an underlying current of divine intention that has been present all along, awaiting recognition. This dawning awareness is not merely a comforting thought, but a fundamental shift in the existential ground beneath us, transforming the perceived vastness of our limitations into the limitless expanse of divine possibility. Drawing these strands together, we discern a profound shift in the very architecture of our spiritual landscape. The recognition of an unwavering, omnipotent alliance fundamentally alters the nature of every challenge that once loomed so large. It is no longer a solitary confrontation against an overwhelming tide, but an engagement entered into with an assured backing, a celestial advocacy that redefines the very parameters of engagement. This understanding, far from being a mere intellectual assent, becomes a generative force, dismantling the internal strongholds of doubt and replacing them with an unshakable conviction. The persistent weight that once characterized the journey begins to dissipate, not through sheer force of will, but through an enlightened perception of divine partnership, where the ultimate outcome is already secured by an authority beyond human measure. This progressive unveiling of truth fosters an active rather than passive posture within the human heart. The call to speak out, to declare promises, and to step into the current of divine guidance is not an act of desperate bravado, but an empowered alignment. It is akin to a deep-seated current, once imperceptible, now revealed as the true driving force beneath the superficial eddies of daily struggle. Engaging with this current means that the very act of placing trust becomes a catalyst, setting in motion forces that transcend the visible realm, transforming the landscape of our lived experience. The quiet desperation that once clung to the spirit yields to a burgeoning sense of agency, an inner fortitude that recognizes its own power as a conduit for a greater, indomitable will. As these individual insights coalesce, they forge a coherent mosaic of understanding, painting a picture of liberation that is both deeply personal and universally resonant. The assurance of protection, once a distant concept, now forms a protective mantle felt in the very fibers of being, shielding against both the overt assaults and the subtle erosions of hope. This integrated perspective illuminates a path forward where every step, no matter how small, is imbued with purpose and undergirded by an unseen strength. It is the profound realization that the narrative of stagnation is not the ultimate story, but merely a chapter, now superseded by a grander, divinely authored epic of unfolding potential and triumphant breakthrough. Therefore, as we stand on the threshold of this culminating realization, the collective weight of these insights prepares the spirit for a profound reception. The journey from the parched land of standstill to the anticipation of serene pastures has been one of gradual yet radical transformation. It is a testament to the power of a guiding whisper becoming a resounding declaration, of invisible barriers dissolving before an unwavering light. The heart, once heavy with unfulfilled potential, now beats with a rhythm of renewed purpose, attuned to the boundless skies that beckon. The stage is now set for the full embrace of that blessed existence, a life not merely dreamed of, but divinely ordained and now within reach. And so, having journeyed through the depths of quiet despair and ascended towards the guiding light, we stand at a profound threshold. This profound, simple prayer, born from the deepest longing of the human heart, was not merely a momentary whisper in the void, but the very breath of a new dawn breaking across the landscape of your soul. It was a divine invocation, a sacred utterance that did not merely promise change, but actively initiated it, dissolving the insidious shadows that once clung to the spirit and igniting an inner fire that now burns with an unquenchable light. The chains of stagnation, once perceived as immutable, have been shattered, not by brute force, but by the gentle yet irresistible power of grace. The suffocating weight of unfulfilled potential has lifted, replaced by the boundless expansion of a spirit made free, now breathing deeply in the clear, invigorating air of divine possibility. This transformation is not a fleeting illusion, nor a temporary reprieve from life's relentless standstills. It is a fundamental reordering of your reality, a profound recalibration of your very being in alignment with the divine blueprint for your life. The prayer, offered with fervent hope and unwavering trust, became indeed the key, not just to unlock a single specific barrier, but to reveal an entirely new path, a way of living where the invisible obstacles that once held you captive now yield to the unwavering presence of God's protective power. The parched land of despair has begun to blossom, watered by streams of living grace, transforming into serene pastures where your spirit can find rest and renewal. The clear waters of divine truth now flow freely, quenching every thirst, guiding you towards boundless skies where your potential is limited only by the vastness of God's own creative design. The quiet confidence of newfound purpose is not a boast, but a quiet internal knowing, a deep resonance with the divine will that now guides your steps. This joy blossoms not only in broad smiles, but in the peaceful assurance that permeates your every action, in the quiet strength that undergirds your every decision. You are no longer merely enduring, you are thriving. You are no longer held captive by the echoes of what might have been. You are walking freely into the fullness of what is and what is yet to come. This is the tangible fruit of a breakthrough prayer, a testament to God's unwavering faithfulness and His profound desire for your flourishing. The journey concludes not with a final destination, but with a vibrant, ongoing walk, bathed in the golden light of His sustaining presence, each step a further affirmation of His incredible grace. Therefore, go forth, not just with renewed hope, but with a living, breathing testimony etched into the very fabric of your existence. Let your life become a beacon, a radiant example of what divine grace can accomplish in a soul once weighed down by stagnation and despair. Embrace this new reality, not as an endpoint, but as the beginning of an unfolding adventure with God. The true practice begins now, in the daily choices, in the persistent trust, in the courageous steps you take. Knowing that the same power that shattered your chains remains with you, leading you ever onward into deeper purpose and greater joy. Continue to speak life into every challenging circumstance, to declare God's promises over every aspect of your being. For the breakthrough you experienced was but a glimpse of the continuous flow of His favor that is now yours. May you walk in ever-increasing freedom, your spirit unburdened, your heart overflowing with gratitude, and your life a vibrant testament to the incredible, transformative power of a God who sees, who hears, and who sets the captives free. May His protective hand guide you, His wisdom illuminate your path, and His boundless love fill every crevice of your being. May you live each day in the blessed existence you once only dreamed of, a living prayer, a walking miracle, forever anchored in the unshakable truth of His enduring presence and the limitless expanse of His divine grace. Amen.